All right, from the studio Fairfax City, we are very grateful that Thierry David accepted our invitation to our show. Thierry, welcome to my humble podcast.
Welcome, Claudio. Thanks to invite me.
No, no problem. Let's go back to the beginning in your life. Were you born like in a musical parent, where a musical family, where a lot of records at home or stuff
No,
like that? No, no.
not at all. I come from a family of a pharmacist because
Pharmacy. Yeah.
all my family they were pharmacists. My mother, my father, my grandfather, my
Wow.
grandfather. So they were in pharmaceutical industry,
Yep.
and I had a very classical uh, training. Like and I made classical studies and I did a business school, and it was just to please my parents because music was s- always a hobby at the beginning. I began very young because I began the piano at the age of 5 uh, because the piano was in the house. But I discovered the music just before. I remember I had a very small turntable, turntable for children
Yeah. Of
with
course.
kind of floppy disk. And there was a record of gypsy music with
Yeah.
violin.
Yeah.
There was just one track, one tune. And I listened every day to this record. And I asked my mother, please, I would like to make violin. She was not very happy with violin because there was a piano in the house, very nice piano. It's a baby grand Erard piano that I have still here in my house. And so I began the piano at 5. And I make with classical training, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin,
Wow. Yeah.
and I studied, but I was not too bad, not very good, but not too bad, and but I was not very serious because I play like half an hour a day. That's all. It
Of
was not. It was not a good way to become a Arthur Rubinstein. So,
course.
but the situation keep on changing with the time. And at the age of 14, my parents gave me a drum, so I began to make some drums. Then I play some saxophone and a little bit guitar, and mostly I record a Revox tape recorder,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
the old one.
Yeah.
And I began to record, on one track and copy on the second track on the se- second track and so on, back and forth.
Yep.
And so at that time, I was already in creating sound, I think, but with no gear. My gear was a piano, an organ, and the drums. So it was a bit difficult, but I began to make some demos just for pleasure, you know. Then I made my studies, and after the studies, I went to Peru, Lima, at the French embassy, because at that time we had in France we have to make the military service, but we could do the military service in a foreign country. So I thought it was more interesting for me to discover another country, and I was very attracted by Latin America because of the music,
Got
uh,
it. Yeah.
especially Brazilian music, bossa nova, Antonio Carlos Jobim, Chico
George
Buarque,
Alberto. Yeah. Yeah.
Josiberto,
Yeah.
all these people. And so I had the chance to go to Peru, which was not so bad. I look on the map where was Lima because at that time I didn't know exactly it was close from the sea or not, but
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, it's close from the sea. I take it," um, and it was a great time because I have a job at the embassy, but I did it, okay, but I have plenty of time to practice music
Yeah.
because it was always in my head. It was like uh, constant and I wanted to play every time, all the day, and so I listen. I took some harmony books when I was there. Because when I make classical music, I didn't practice a lot. The harmony, solfege, all these things. I was very lazy. And I say, okay, I have to understand how it works. So I practice harmony and I play with Peruvian musicians. And we play, like, I even play the charango, if you know the charango.
Of course.
Of course. And okay, it was funny. And then I heard of the Berklee College of Music in Boston.
Yep.
So it was a tough decision to take, or I go back to France. And I think I would have quit music definitely and work for, let's say,
Company. Yeah.
company, pharmaceutical, or anything with my diploma. And or I tried to go to Berklee. And so I decided to go to Berklee. Like always, my father was not very happy with this, but because
Mhm.
they were afraid, music is,
Mhm. I know exactly. Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know the story. Every musician, I heard Robert Rich talk about this problem because
Yeah, that's right.
we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
always been with this problem. Um, so I went to Berkeley, and that was a real shock because I was already 25 years old, and there were young people there, 15, 16, incredible musicians. And
Yeah,
every day I was asking me, but what are you doing here? What is your purpose? And but the teachers there were helping me to find a way to do to because I couldn't compete with all these great piano player. It was so difficult. So I said, but what is my aim is even maybe film composing, film music,
yeah,
or arranging, or sound design, things like that. And so I took some courses, but you have to make at Berkeley. You have to begin with the basic courses, so you can't
yeah,
jump from another. And okay, I after 1 year I say, okay, I have to go back to France. But I think it was a mistake now. I should have stayed more. But I have to earn some money, and I say, okay, I have to go back to France. And it was a difficult period because it lasts for 3 years, and I had to work for an advertising company. And after 1 year and a half, 2 years, I decided to quit and to really um, focus on music. And I began to play piano bar, giving piano lessons. Well, and I began at the same time to make some demos for advertising and some documentaries and things like that. And I began to build a very little studio, very little,
mm,
with four tracks and things, one or two synthesizer, but nothing special. And in '86, I create my own music company, production company, and label. And then the story was different. You know,
okay. Yeah,
began really to be music
yeah.
professionally.
Were your parents upset that you never end up going to a
Sorry, wait.
pharmacy? Were your parents, did they
If they were
concerned
upset,
because you didn't become a pharmacist or?
they were really upset. I think
Yeah,
we even didn't talk to each other for 6 months because of this decision.
yeah. Wow. Yeah,
Because my father would have loved to transmit because it's my grandfather who creates the laboratory.
laboratory. Yeah,
My father then sold the laboratory to the Boots company in England, but he would have liked to work with me. So he was
sure.
upset. And he
Yeah,
was more than upset. I think he was afraid. He said, where is he going to go with playing in a piano bar? It was like
sure,
crazy.
sure. Yeah, I'm a family of engineers. In my
Okay.
family, we are all engineers. The
Hmm.
majority. My grandpa, my mom, my dad. I'm an engineer. My son will become one, and cousin, nephew. So I know. But my dad knew. So, but what is different is that my dad had a lot of music in Chile,
Mm,
a lot of music. So I began listening to music when I was a little kid.
yeah,
All jazz, tango from Argentina, and of
yeah.
course, when I was 14, I discovered rock and roll.
Hmm.
But the same conversation that you had here, music is great, but you need to make money. You need to go to school. As a
Yeah.
hobby is great, buy music, because I knew back then that I didn't want to be a musician. I wasn't interested in learning musician.
Mm,
I was interested in listening, going to a lot of concerts, and I did that. I knew that I I don't read any music, and I was interested, as I say, in playing music. But I knew now, back then, I knew that music would become an important part of my life.
mm.
And now in the process of, I attended Peter Gabriel's studio
Ah,
in Bath, Real World,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm in the process of taking a couple of classes now to learn how Dolby Atmos works. So very likely I'm going to be buying a couple of studios. So
Hmm.
I'm accomplishing my goal. So I'm very
Yeah,
lucky.
yeah. We are very lucky with when you like music. It's very
It's a beautiful. People don't understand this stuff. It's music give you a lot of satisfaction, right? Of course, you
true.
want to make money, you want to form a family, you have
Mm,
kids. So I knew that. Okay, I will study engineering, make a computer science, right? I'm a computer scientist, and you gotta make money in order to pay the bills, in order to fly, in order to see concerts, right? But eventually, little by little, I knew, no, I want to end up my life, whatever that means, in the
mm.
music side. So that's what I'm doing now. So, but continue. So,
Yeah, and personally, I think I find a good way to earn money with music. It was
yeah.
a music library. These are you make records with a company, and they used the tracks for advertising, film industry, production, and everything. So it for me it was great because I could make my music, well, in sometimes with certain wishes from the editor,
Mhm.
but I was not in contact direct with the users,
Correct.
and it was for me it was a good way, and I had the chance to meet people from in France called Coca Media, which is now a Universal Music industry company,
Yeah.
and there was the beginning of their label, so it was a good time, right time to do that, and I did like more than 20 records with them.
Wow.
And well, during 2 or 3 years, well, it's the same if you make a business of shoemaking, for example. You have to wait a little bit to earn money, but I could manage after 2 3 years. It began to produce some rights and more and more. So, but I was very productive. I made two, 3 records a year. It was really tough.
Wow. Wow.
But at the same time, uh, I wanted to be more free on my creations. So I decided to make records just for the pleasure, let's say, and to try to distribute them for the normal market. And that's what I did. But and at the beginning, I sold a few records, and more and more. But it was a niche, It's a niche where we are working maybe I have to talk about my the style because
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
it changed a lot, from I began music with the classical formation, of course, but after that I made some jazz, especially at Berklee, and jazz fusion, and
Mhm.
I was very influenced by people like Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, Keith Jarrett,
Yeah.
uh, Pat Metheny. Well, I can tell.
Go on. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know it.
Yeah.
It's all
But the feeling is unbelievable.
And then there was for me there were three records, very important records in that maybe decide me to make composition. The first one is Dark Side of the Moon from the Pink Floyd.
Of
It
course,
was,
yeah,
I think it was in 73, so I was 18. It was perfect.
yeah.
Then there was Oxygen from Jean-Michel Jarre.
Mhm.
It was instrumental music, pure instrumental. What's very new at the time. Now it's more common, but at that time it was very new. And one of the record of Rick Wakeman from Yes, which is called Criminal Records. And that I discovered, I was in Spain at the time, and I discovered this record, and it was fantastic. So it was the three main, let's say, I don't know how to say that, but
Inspire you to, what's
inspiring
but
musicians.
open your eyes to see,
Exactly.
you
And
know.
then but there are so many. So I began when I was working for the music library. I made lots of, let's say, jazz rock fusion records. And then I began to make some world music, what is called world music. I hate this word, but it's called world music. It's a
Yeah,
mix
that's
of
right.
hybrid. And that was the first part of my career, from my album Tales of Sand until, which is, I got it here. I will show you this one, this one.
Yeah,
And then I make this one, Cora.
yeah, yeah.
This record was very important because I used to play with. I made all the compositions, the recording, and everything. But I met a Franco-American, French-American percussionist and composer, which is called Steve Sheehan, which is very well known in France because he plays with everybody, but he also plays with, more recently, with Paul Simon and Sting and Peter Gabriel. And
Wow.
and I met him. I had the chance to meet him, and he's also a composer. And for me, it was really important to discover his work because he made hybridation. I don't know if the word exists, but the mixture of culture and influences, and it's really, and especially with Oriental influences.
Yeah,
So, because this record is kind of jazz ethnic rock, it's very, and Steve is playing all the percussions, and it's crazy. And there was another guitar player, which is Nguyen, which is very known in the jazz the circle. And this was a very good, very interesting experience because we were working with very few gear. Where I had just four tracks, like the Beatles, four tracks, and we had to record and mix, then record again, and so on. It was not like we are working now. We can do everything we want.
that's
You
right. Yeah.
can make 1,000 tracks and then go back and so on. Um, so and after this period of world music, um, I met people from a French label which called Vox Terrae, and this was the period in France with all these lounge compilations, like Buddha Bar compilation. I don't know if you know that, and it's bit kind of new age music, relaxation lounge. It's this kind more quiet music. And then on this label, I made four records, and one of these records, which is called, sorry, Zen Pose. This one
Yeah, yeah.
uh, was distributed in the States by Real Music, by Terence Gallop from Real Music, and it was a big success. So and it still is a big success on streaming companies and everything. So I made after that I've made 5 records more with real music.
Yeah.
On the last one was Hypnosis in 2014, which is I don't know where is it. It's this one.
Yep.
I
All
show
right.
all my record. I have plenty.
Good for
And,
you.
this was in 2014, and after that I had after this record I was how I can say not lost, but I say, do I have to keep on,
Keep
or
on
do I
doing that.
relax and play golf? So, and the period was a bit difficult. I lose my parents and things. Well, okay, the usual life. So I didn't. I still worked every day, not as often that before, but I worked like 1 hour, 2 hours a day, not every day. And the pandemic came, and with the pandemic, I say, okay, you are at home, you can't go outside, so I decide to concentrate again on music, and I
Hmm.
did another album with no label on my own. This one, slow
Yeah.
motion.
Slow motion. Yeah.
Motion. And 3 years later, it's a new one, which is this one. This is a CD, but it's
Yeah.
just for the friends, because it will be digital distribution only.
I got it. Got it. Got it.
If
Yeah.
you
You
want,
will need to. You will. Yeah. I heard that. You will need to sign me some CDs.
I will send you. For of
Photo
course,
from my
of course,
collection.
I will. Sure, I will. Sure, I will.
Like,
Uh, that's well, okay. That's my shortly as possible.
yeah.
uh,
Sure. Sure. Let me ask you a question. When you created a musical library, so you when it's a commercial, a company, a marketing campaign, a car, whatever,
mm,
they play that, you get paid every time that they use that
exactly.
library, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You get paid by the company and by the SACEM, the Copyright Society in
Yeah.
France.
Yeah.
And it depends. The fees are different depending on the use of the music. If it's an advertisement for L'Oréal, it's
Oh, so get more
it's
cash.
many money. But if you work regularly and if you produce, because at the beginning, when I began in music library, it was in '86. My musician friends told me, oh, that's music library. It's bullshit. It's like and I say, okay, maybe you will see. Most of these friends stopped the music because they couldn't, you know.
They're poor, and then you're
Maybe.
doing okay.
And I think I took, but it was for me. It was a good. I love to stay in my studio and to work, so it was a good way to do it. You
Yeah.
know,
Good. Good. I got
because
it.
at that time I was always also playing with jazz band, but I stopped all that because it took me much time to produce these records.
Yeah. Um, what what's the motivation for you to keep on creating music and creating music? You like you go to your studio like every day, the music come to you. Are you in the supermarket or driving the car and say, "Man, I like that." You record it a little bit in your phone. What's the process for you to keep
I
on working?
think you have to. Well, it's my case. You have to have a routine. So, uh, because each time I stop working for, let's say, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, even 6 months, once, uh, you, it's like practicing a sport. It's the same. You forget,
Yeah.
and especially with the new digital process we have. I can't show you. There is a piano. It's a
Mhm.
CP Yamaha. It's a very old piano. But
Yeah.
now we are playing with computers and machines, and even if I have also hardware. But so if you don't practice every day, technically speaking, you forget. You are getting old, so you you forget how to use the machine. That's the first thing. Um, about the ideas, inspiration, that's very difficult to explain. I think it's, as I always say, it's mainly work, work, and work. So I have no idea when, for example, when I begin a new project, I always make a project like a concept album. Always.
Yeah.
That means I want to make an album of, let's say, 50 minutes, around 50 minutes, but it has to tell a story. So
Mm.
I won't make in the same album. I won't put a jazz tunes with a rock and roll tune. I said to be simple.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know exactly. For example, the last album, I began with a blank sheet. So I didn't know at all where I was going to go. So most of the times I come to the studio for 1 hour or two, and I begin to make some sequences, some lawyers, some piano, some stuff. Can be from percussion, but can be without percussions. And every day I do something new. And after, let's say, I don't know, but maybe after 1 month, I began to listen to all what I've done, and I select the one I prefer. And I began
That's
to go like lawyers, I do
different layers.
exactly. And after a certain time, but as I said to Alevers, which a train company which is going to distribute a new album, I'm very slow because he was asking very gently every 6 months, how are you? How is work? Okay, but very nicely. And I was a bit sorry to tell him I'm slow. I don't know, maybe. And it took me 2 years to be frank. Before I was working more regularly, so it was I could make an album within 1 year. But now I take my time.
Mm.
So and then after all this period of searching, and I made a selection. When I see there is three tracks which can be a concept, I go in it, and then I made the direction, and the arrangements are more easily built uh, with because I have a basis of the musical project, but I don't, except once in the past, once or twice. I said I'm going to make a very relaxed, for example, a very relaxed album. I never know. I never know. It will depend of my humor, my sensation, my emotions, the people I met, as you said, in the supermarket. I don't know the
Mm.
travel you make, everything. It's like we are a human being full of emotions and sensations. So
Yep.
I think an artist is able to. I'm very intuitive. I go to the piano. I do something. If it's not good, it's not good. I drop it. And sometimes I drop things, but I say no, no, don't drop it because maybe in 1 month you will hear it, and we you will like it. So,
Mm.
it's very difficult to explain exactly how this process is working. But I think maybe you can understand what I try to explain.
No, no, I don't. Is it? No,
And
I know exactly what you. Is it difficult looking back in your life? Is it difficult to make a kind of good living in the music business? You know, to raise a family, to have kids, to buy a house or an apartment.
well, if I talk my personal
Yeah, yeah.
way of life, I think my personal life suffer a lot of this choice I made. You know,
Mm,
I have no children. I had no time to have children, and I have a wife now. We are since 24 years together, but
yeah.
we met. We were. She is archaeologist and conservator of uh, archaeological
Yeah, 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 correct. Yeah,
and but she understood that I was a bit different, you know, and she is also passionate by what she's doing. So we
yeah.
could, but we met. I was more than 40 years old, and so to live it's okay. To earn his money, okay, you can do it. But to have a life with two or three children and to be as I
Mm,
think it's really difficult.
uh,
Some people manage, but you have to be very you have to be very with somebody which really understand the difficulty of this career.
mhm,
Uh, Even if I am lucky, because with mainly with the music library, but now with streaming and my rights are flat, you know, it's or flat or even getting more and more. So because I was very productive and I made like 500 tracks. So of course, at the end, some don't pay at all, and some pay a lot. That's life.
mm,
But you have to be very passionate. Let's say you have to
yeah.
be very passionate and patient, courageous. Well, but I'm very lucky with this. I have no regret at all, not
Mm,
at all. And I could have done everything else, you know. It was not, yeah,
mm.
nobody shoot me to make music, you know. It was,
That's right. Yeah. You could have become a pharmacist, right? And
yeah.
inherit your dad company and your mom company, do very well financially, but
Mm,
inside of you, you would have not been happy
no.
because you say, "Well, music is my thing. Music is my thing." Yeah, I make a good living, have a family, I bought a nice home in Paris, but
But
inside of you,
yeah,
you
my father told me when I quit the advertising agency where I was working, he was very furious because he told me, "Why did you quit? You can do music at night." I
yeah,
said,
that's
"If I do music at night, it will be a hobby. It's not a profession. I want to be à fond, as we say in French,
yeah,
uh,
that's it.
totally involved in
Immersed, totally immersed into music.
totally, you know. I need just to buy some equipment, and after that, he helped me a little bit.
Mm.
But at that time, for example, Jean-Michel Jarre was doing Oxygen in '76, so I think
76,
he
yeah.
had like you know, it was a dream for all of us because he had a
Exactly.
material incredible like he
Yeah.
all have today. And at that time, I had my little organ, small like this. So
Mm.
you don't you the equipment is very important. The gear is very important in the style of music you are doing.
Yeah.
If you have a piano, drums, bass, and guitar, you will make jazz or rock. But if you have a synthesizer or plugins, for example, I think the evolution of my new album is mainly influenced by the gear I bought like 3 years ago. You know, I began to buy hardware synthesizers, and because I say, okay, it's good to play with a mouse, but I would like to turn the button and to hear the difference, you know. With,
Sure.
it's another way of doing it.
The album is very, very good, actually. The Six Wave, Waves, it's very good album, actually. I really like it. It's
Thank you.
different kind of music, and it's oriented for, for different areas, right? Different environment. People, like you said, the lounge music, the meditation can be used in advertising, but it's good. I mean, at the end, you need to do what makes you happy. I mean, you do the music for yourself first.
Mm.
When Thierry David write music, he need to be happy. I'm the same with interviews, right? I do the stuff. You're selfish. You need to do the stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
And make modification and edit it and show it to friend and say, oh, change that. Or the record label will tell you, okay, it's too long, it's too short, change it. But at 90% is what you did, what you wrote. And it's at the same time, you can make a little bit of money and people react to music and people like it. It's even better,
Yeah, it's exactly what I think. It's if I am happy, the listener will be happy.
We'd be happy, absolutely.
So I try to transmit this, and that's why it takes so long a long time, because uh, I'm very hard with myself. I say, oh no, this needs. Do you have to do it again? Because I think I have to give the more I can
Mhm.
to myself first
Yeah.
to be very happy,
Mm.
and and then people will thank me for that. I had sometimes I have some messages of people who are ill or in chemio or things like that, and
Yeah.
they listen to my records because they feel it gives them a relaxed atmosphere, or it can make them travel, or and it's really very I thank these people for what they say, because
A
it's
beautiful feeling, that
the
you
best
help
compliment
somebody, right?
you can have. It's the best compliment you can have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, but you are happy. Two things for me are really important in making music: pleasure and joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
After all the rest is work, and trying to find the ideas. But it's not so difficult when, if I have one little talent, is to have ideas. I have always ideas, I can
Sure.
tomorrow I can begin, or be, I don't remember exactly what I've done the day before. I have no memory of what I do. Sometimes I don't even recognize my records. It's not
Really?
Alzheimer, not yet, but it's it's really curious, because I want to be always uh, in advance. For example, this new album is just finished. I finished it in mid September, so it's brand new, and I worked on this album for 2 years and a half. But I changed all my gear since I finished the album. I changed a lot of gear to be more efficient and to work with new gear, plugins especially. But I'm already thinking of what I will do. So, I don't stay because as I don't make a concert or things like that, I don't have to to memorize my tunes, and
Correct.
I tried as it's not always easy, but to not to repeat myself. You know,
Sure.
that's difficult, but that's why I made some. If you compare my album Cora, which is 30 years old, and the last one, it's totally different.
Yeah, of course.
Even,
You need
even if there is a
to
line.
evolve. Yeah.
Mm.
What do you do? So when you for, let's say, for Six Wave, right? So you end up recording like 20 tracks, right? And you only use six, right?
Yeah.
That's the name of the record. What happened the other 14? Do you keep it on a high drive? You go back in 6 months from now, man, maybe I can take that piece with something that I did 5 years ago, or something that I did three, and a new idea, and then try
Yeah,
to do
it's a
something
bit
about
like
it.
it. Yeah, it's a bit like this. Because you're right when you to make six. I did six tracks for this one because I didn't look the time of each track. I do
Yeah,
it. I feel it. So I saw at the end I have six tracks, but there is already 50 minutes, and I like it like this way.
yeah,
I, there was a seven track, but I said no, it will be too long. So I decided to quit six tracks. But I've made records with 13, even 20 tracks, you know. So,
yeah,
but they were short, like 3 minutes.
yeah.
So that's the first thing. And when to make six tracks, I did, let's say, I begin, let's say, 20, 25, 30 tracks, more, even more sometimes. As we are working with computers, we can keep every every tracks and every try you made and every even if every each plugin you use and everything you can
Exactly. Yeah.
you don't when I say we drop here in our head but we don't drop in the computer.
The computer. Right.
So you're right when I go back, and especially the day I don't have any ideas, what I do is I go back and I see in my computer and I register by date, you know. So I go to 2014 and I say, okay, let's take these tracks and I change it. So it's like a new sound and it gives you the basic for something.
Mhm.
Uh, but for this one, for this new album, I really I didn't do that. Maybe that's why it took me a long period because I didn't use anything I did before, which was not the case of the previous one, Slow Motion. Slow Motion, I used some tracks I did, some basic I had from the previous albums. You know, there is no. It depends of the humor and the inspiration, let's say, because sometimes you don't have nothing. It's when you are, it's like a writer. If you have just a blank sheet and you say, I have no idea, it's difficult. So
Absolutely.
either you take a glass of whiskey and and or no say, I don't know, but um, no, but to be serious, it's
No, I know. I know.
that's maybe the most difficult part of creation is I don't know what to do, and it happens to me a lot. And my wife is very kind with me because she saw me sometimes at the end of the day, and she saw my face, and she said, "Oh, it was not okay today. No, it was a disaster. You work 8 hours for nothing. That you think it's for nothing, but it's never for nothing. You're
It's
just
never for nothing. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And you're like, you in a day's work, right? You create something, you save it. You always gotta save it, never
Mm.
delete it, right? And then eventually, more ideas come. A week passes, you revisit the track and say, "Man, it's not too bad. Maybe if I can take that part at this portion, and then you start working on development." So
Sure, sure.
the brain is always working in the background.
Yeah. And it's even the same when you listen to music. I'm
Yeah,
sure you uh, you see what I will say. You imagine what I can say. I can say. You listen, for example. I was when I was young, when I was like 12 years old. I hated Mozart. I couldn't play Mozart. I told my piano teacher, no, I don't want to play Mozart. No, Beethoven, Chopin, not Mozart. I take this example.
that's an
But,
example. Yeah,
but a few years later, I say, okay, Mozart is not so bad.
of course.
And it was the same with, because I listened to all kind of music. I told you from South American music, but I was very uh, fan of Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, classical music, Bartok,
All of them. Yeah.
Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, which Kawali singer, that Peter Gabriel, of course, which is for me the god.
Course.
Uh, Peter Gabriel and Sting are the two guys which I
Yeah.
really love. And but Peter Gabriel, what he's done with real world music and real world label, it's fantastic.
It's
It
amazing. Yeah.
opens the frontiers. And the music he has done for the last temptation of the Christ
Yeah.
is beautiful, beautiful. And also film music composer like Maurice Jarre, Nino Rota, Ennio Morricone,
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer, new one, but Zimmer is still old.
Yeah.
But and for example, I used to listen very often in the 80s, Michael Franks, for example.
Yeah.
I have not been listening to him for maybe 20 years, and last month I decided to listen back, and I said, "Oh, I was a bit not disappointed, but the taste changed."
Of
So
course. Yeah.
even of somebody you loved really at that period, but he can come again. So when you are composing, I think it's exactly the same. You can have you can make something one day, you are sad, it's very nostalgic. The day after, you say, no, 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 it's too negative, I want to do that. But you listen 2 months after, 2 years after, 10 years after, good band.
Yeah, good thing. Yeah.
It's different. So I can, that's the advantage to work regularly, as I said before, to have a routine and to try to to do it not every day, not every day. I'm getting old, so not every day. And I'm doing lots of golf, so I have to and I read a lot. So I have maybe 2 or 3 lives won't be enough to
Sure.
do
Sure to do everything. Is
like
it difficult to find a record label when you have a new album, like the latest one, right? What's the process of you? You need to reach out to a lot of people and say, "Here's my new album. Are you interested? Are you interested? Are you interested?" You go on your own and you find a distributor. What's the process for you?
Well, as I began 35 years ago, creating my own label, I was, even for the music library, I was doing everything. So, I mean, I was making the music, recording, making the art cover. I've done all the cover I showed you, Cora. I made the cover, the artwork. And so I was controlling everything. The only part I didn't control and that I gave to was to a publisher, and was doing the commercial stuff. And that was the beginning. But after, it's the people you meet and which decide the way to. I didn't send a record or project to thousands of labels, never. If I take, for example, the people, Alevers, for example, that is going to release this album, I met him 30 years ago in Cannes Festival in Midem.
Okay.
But he didn't remember because he was working with Stephen Hill from Hearts of Pace.
Yeah.
I went in 95, I went to Sausalito, so San Francisco, to see Stephen, and we had a very good exchange at that time, and he began to use my music, and but I was not living in the States, so maybe it's more difficult to maintain the contact and
The
to
contact. Yeah.
so but the way to release, for example, Zen Pose with the real music album was done because I had a contract with my label here in France that
Yeah.
I because Steve Sheehan knew the girl who was in charge of the label. It's always, for me, it's always contacts. And for example, when I made, especially the only difference is with the last album, Slow Motion. because it was during the COVID period. Real music was no more in the hand of Terence Yallop, so it was new people there, and they didn't want to release this album. I don't know why. So I decided to do it by myself, and I make the distributions with the Orchard company, and they distribute. But I didn't do a real promotion. It's really difficult when you are alone. It's not.
Yeah.
It's your project can exist, but there is nothing behind. And so at that time, I sent the record to Stephen Hill, and he told me you should contact Alevers because he has this new company, etc., etc. And that's the way. As I said before, he wrote notes every 6 months. Are you happy? What you okay? And I say, okay, if I manage to make a record, because I didn't say I will do, I will try, but I'm not sure
I
to
will
be
try it. Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the end. Sure, I will propose him, and that's the way we make the deal, and the way he make me a contact with Bess Hilton, and so on.
United States.
But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's because for like say, yeah, maybe the first album I did was uh, with a friend, and he was not thinking like me. He told me we have to send to Windham Hill. We send like say I don't know, sorry, to like 10 20 labels in the States. We had no answer at all. We have to at least to take your phone at the time and to try to have a contact. But that's the way I manage it, and I'm very happy because I always think I made a little mistake coming back from Boston too early and not stayed in the States because I think I should have stayed. But 30 years later, I'm working with American people, especially in California, so I'm very happy.
That's good for you. Good for you. Good for you. And you say the new album, which is pretty good, you are not going to be creating a physical media, right? CDs or a vinyl. Just going to be
No,
just
no,
downloadable from
except the one
Bandcamp.
I will send you this one.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, very good.
Dedicate.
Which
And
is,
but I made 50, just for people because I didn't. Well, it's sad. Really, it's sad to because I am old school, so I love to make a CD, even vinyl records. But for the slow motion, I did it, and I sold like 20 records. So I said no, everybody's doing downloading and everything. And
yeah,
the new one I make in high definition, 96 hertz. So
yeah,
people wants to have the real top level definitions they can. Now all the platform, even Apple is going to make this, but there is in France there is Cobus, Tidal, and Spotify not yet, but they came with this new way of. But it's not the same that to have, the record. You know that. I heard your interview with John DiLiberto, and
yeah,
when he told us the number of record he has, it's crazy.
yeah,
But I sent him my because we made an interview 12 years ago, and I sent him the last two albums. He told me for slow motion, don't send me the CD. I don't need it. Just give me the files. So I
yeah,
say, yeah, the next one I will do digital only.
yeah, yeah. For me, I like physical thing. Like,
Yeah, it's very,
I need to touch it. I need to open. I need to.
you touch, you open,
Yeah, you
you
need
read,
to.
you can,
Yeah,
yeah,
of
do this.
course. That's what it's
That's,
about, right?
of
It.
course. I remember when I was beginning, even before being a musician, a professional musician, I went to the FNAC in Paris, which is the main record store, and there was all vinyl at that time, and they were on the shelves, and I was going, especially in hard rock selection, because
Yeah,
the cover were extraordinary, and I
yeah,
remember. I bought some a record of Scorpion, you know, the hard rock.
The band, yeah, Scorpio, yeah.
I didn't knew at all what just because of the cover, and it was a pleasure to open the record, and I began now to record again, to buy again some vinyl,
Of course, yeah, the
like
price, yeah,
White Album of the Beatles or Dark Side of the Moon, of course, and
yeah.
it's a pleasure to have the object.
Yeah, that side of the moon, I have like 20 different versions. Yes, sir. The one in Europe, the one that was say an old one of the first one. In Japan, they did a new edition, and the 25th or 30th year anniversary, they
Yeah,
created a special edition with notes
yeah,
and
yeah,
so for me that's important. It's my life, so. And
yeah.
but it's important. It's music. It's a beautiful thing. We live in crazy time with Ukraine and Russia killing one another, Israel and Palestine and this. We live in crazy time, but music is a beautiful thing. You can
I
put
think,
your headphone and listen to your stuff.
yeah,
And
I try to follow the news and everything, but not too much. Well,
not too much. Yeah.
to be frank, I follow, but I don't want to be invaded by all this
Yeah.
bad news.
Mm.
But I think also that our role as a creator is to give pleasure to people. That maybe that can
Absolutely.
help a little bit to for the
Yeah.
people
No, right, absolutely.
better. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but at least it's like I say to transmit your pleasure to
That's right.
people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you receive letter for somebody going to chemotherapy or a funeral
That's
or
fantastic.
they lost a son or a wife, whatever the situation, and
Mm.
they people say to you, Thierry, I listen to your music and I cry, but I'm very happy. So
Yeah,
thank you
yeah,
for creating that piece of music, whatever. That
yeah.
give you a lot of
And I take time because I have no not so many, but I have some time, so I answer
reply,
it. I
reply
reply.
that.
I
Yeah.
reply.
Yeah. All right, Thierry, thank you very much for your
It
help
was a
and your
pleasure.
time. The album is great, and I go to Paris often
But
with
you
the
can
family.
call
So
me.
maybe when I'm there next time, I will
You
let you
call
know in
me.
advance. We can get
Sure.
together for coffee or lunch or something.
Of course, it would be a pleasure. And you can go to see my music on my site.
Yeah,
You
feel
know
free to mention the website. Yeah, yeah, I will include that.
the
Yeah,
website, which is thierrydavidmusic.com. And so
yeah, I will put the link there as
I
well.
make my promo.
That's of course you have to do it. Yeah, so I
That's
will, I will, I will add the link as well to people
okay,
to
super.
listen to podcast to buy your music and help you out.
Okay. So
Merci beaucoup.
hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Muchas gracias.
De nada. Chao.